All right, so in this video, we're going to work with our first third-party library, one that's really commonly used, the library Axios, that helps us make HTTP requests. We're going to do it on the server side, so in a Node file, I'll execute with Node. We don't need to bother with an HTML file or any of that stuff. So I'm just going to quickly finish setting up my project. I've got a tsconfig.json. I want to set the out directory to be a dist folder that doesn't yet exist. Let's just run our code, tsc. All right, we've got our dist directory, and we have index.js in there, and that's fine. I probably want to be a little more specific and just say only include the source directory. That's all there is right now, but just in case we somehow had other files I accidentally created. And this should be it. That's all we need for now. So the next step, of course, is to install Axios, which is an npm package, at least the way I'm going to use it. And I don't have a package.json yet, so I'm going to run npm init, and I'll just skip everything with -y, and then I'll do an npm install, and I want Axios. Okay. So the way that Axios works is that it gives us a bunch of different methods, including a get method, a post method, and the docs here. Yeah, here we go. I want to do something like this, axios.get, and I'm just going to make a get request to some API. Well, I shouldn't say some API. I know exactly which API. I always try in my other courses, I've tried to do interesting APIs, but without fail, they either get taken down, the API structure changes, or they just completely stop working. So we're not going to do that. The other side of that is some of the great APIs we could use require credit cards and accounts, which is also a pain for a short video like this. So we're resigned to using a very basic and pretty boring API, a JSON placeholder API that just has a bunch of these placeholder resources like /posts. And if we look at /posts, we get back some sort of JSON response that includes individual objects that have a user ID, an ID, a title, and a body. Or we could do it with to-dos or users. We can decide which one of these endpoints. Yeah, maybe we'll do this one. We'll do it for users. So we're going to make a request to an endpoint like this, or even just users and then /an ID, like user/1. This is a single user here. All right. It's got all this information. I'm going to make a request to this endpoint using Axios, and I'm going to do it in TypeScript. So the first thing we should do is import Axios, right? We've installed it using npm, so we should be able to import Axios. And I'll do from Axios like that. And if I look at Axios and I type a dot, we're getting a whole bunch of autocomplete, which is a good sign. And in fact, if I right click on this Axios and we go into type definitions, they exist. There is a set of type declarations, or it's a single file, index.d.ts in this case, that came with Axios. If we look at this file structure, it might be a bit hard for you to see, but this is part of the Axios node module folder itself. So some libraries, like Axios, come with their own TypeScript declaration files, which is great because we don't have to do any additional work. We don't have to go find a file. It's here, and VS Code knows about it, TypeScript knows about it, and we see things like, all the type definitions, all the interfaces. Here's a type called method that just is a massive union type of all the different possible methods that you can provide when you're making a request, upper and lowercase. Here's, if we keep going down, Axios request config is probably the most complicated piece here. This is all the options you can provide when you're making a request. Are you providing parameters, a URL, headers, all this different stuff? You can get very complicated. But for now, the point is that this file exists. We didn't have to go and install it, which is great, and it's easy, and that's why I started with this library. The next library we'll look at after this is one that does not come with type declarations. So it is getting more and more common for these libraries to support TypeScript out of the box. You can tell, by the way, if we take a look at the Axios source code itself in the node modules directory, inside of Axios, if we look at its own package.json, you'll see in here somewhere types. It's alphabetical, I assume. Types, where are you? Here we go. Types or typings. I believe you can just use one of them. But anyway, these are going to refer to this property in a package.json tells TypeScript where to find the types. And in this case, they're in a file called index.d.ts, which is right in here. There's index.d.ts. There it is. And we've already seen this. We happen to jump here using the little shortcut from VS Code, right? Go to type definition. But that's the file. So again, Axios comes with this file. It comes with its own type declaration file, and TypeScript knows about that. And we don't have to do anything special. And I think we'll stop here, and in the next video, we'll actually implement our very basic logic to request our endpoint, and we'll work with some of the types that are defined in this declaration file.